It is Saturday, August 12th, 2023, and you're in the nonprofit cheat code space. Hope you guys had a great week so far. We're going to get it jumped off momentarily, giving the crew time to jump on board. We're actually doing a multicast today, so we're live on the Clubhouse, of course, but we're also going live on our live stream. So for those who are not on the Clubhouse, you are seeing me on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Happy to have you guys with us today. As always, we're going to talk all things nonprofit. Was an interesting week. Hope yours was. Got a lot accomplished, had a lot of wins this week. Can't wait to share. And this week we're diving into what I like to call true colors, and it's talking about nonprofits and authenticity. Are you showing your true colors with your nonprofit and your nonprofit journey? That sometimes means that we have to be comfortable being uncomfortable, as well as a little vulnerable with our messages and whatnot. So if you're not leveraging that with your nonprofit organization, you might be missing an opportunity to really connect on an emotional level. And funny enough, even if it's not nonprofit based, I think that still resonates even in the commercial space. I'm gonna switch it up a little bit, you guys. So I don't know if everyone knows, yesterday was the 50th, or what they consider to be the 50th birthday of hip hop. So as we've been hearing all year long, celebrating 50 years of hip hop. Well, yesterday was the formal birthday of hip hop on August 11th, 1973. DJ Kool Herc had an outside event in New York City, the Bronx specifically, and we kind of consider that to be one of the kickoffs of organized events or concerts, kind of impromptu concerts in the hip hop community. So make sure you shout out a little bit, give a happy birthday to hip hop if you have not. I think we all have experiences that are connected to hip hop, whether you're a hip hop head or not. It has had a global influence, and we want to acknowledge that and give a shout out. So happy birthday, hip hop. We appreciate you. Happy birthday to hip hop. I don't know if you guys have seen Brown Sugar, and they say, so when did you fall in love with hip hop? So I got probably multiple occasions that I fell in love with hip hop. I think my first album was actually formal first album was Living Large by Heavy D and the Boys. My first single, though, was Sweet Tea, It's My Beat. Sweet Tea and Jazzy Joyce. Good morning, good morning, good morning. And you guys, I'm working multicast here, so bear with me if I take a couple seconds to get to the chat here. I'm looking at like 4 screens simultaneously. So definitely bear with me. Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Jamila. Good morning, Lanique. Happy to have you guys here. Good morning, Amit. How are you doing this morning?
Hey, what's up, man?
I'm doing well, brother. Good to see you as always.
Yeah, man. Likewise. Weekend is here. Always fun, right?
The weekend is upon us, Amit. The weekend is upon us. The weekend is here, and we're doing it live. We're doing a simulcast again today. So we're on the Clubhouse. We're on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So we're doing it live.
All right.
We're across the platforms today. Absolutely. We're on all platforms.
All time. All right.
The only one I haven't got us on yet is Instagram, or not the only one. The only major one that we haven't connected, because there's some special kind of authorization you got to get, but we'll get there. We will get there and be ready.
Always something with Meta and Facebook. Right?
Always Meta right? Trying to stop us from being great. So I was saying to me that yesterday was the official birthday of hip hop. Hip hop turned 50 yesterday.
Ooh.
Obviously it's a lot of, I'm sure people might debate that, but August 11th, 1973 is considered kind of the day hip hop was born in the Bronx, New York. So I just want to make sure. Go ahead.
No, we're not going to finish your sentence. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying, making sure we shout out and give hip hop a heads up and really talk a little bit. That's not our focus today, but talk a little bit if you have a memory or an influence that came from hip hop. I'm a hip hop kid. I'm probably a child of hip hop in the season that I grew up in. So with that being said, if you grew up in the 70s or 80s, though, I don't see how you weren't influenced by hip hop. Honestly, wherever you're from, I think hip hop had an impact.
So what? Well, no, definitely. I definitely have some memories. So what, is there one? Obviously, there's one place or one event, and I can look it up. But what is the event, or what is what
so
happened on August 11th?
and I'm paraphrasing a little bit now because I don't have my notes right in front of me. The ideal or the kind of culmination, if you will, was DJ Kool Herc, which we kind of consider one of the grandfathers or godfathers of hip hop, had a outdoor event in the Bronx where he had the DJ set up and speakers, kind of a park party, if you will, and kind of consider that to be the really official jump off of hip hop. And obviously it's evolved in so many different ways, and some people might look at it in different or have different experiences. Like there's always debates on what borough really brought hip hop to the forefront. But I think
if this person did a concert, well, he might not have been at where he lived, right? He may have been in another borough of the city, and he may not have been from there. Is that what?
Well, no, I think he probably was from there, but I think the ideal is, and I'll pull up some stuff. I got like multiple screens open in front of me now.
Yeah. You got like what? Yeah.
But the ideal is, and if you know anyone from New York, from specific boroughs in New York, like you might not make it out safely.
No, that's true. Right.
If you misquote who's kind of responsible for hip hop, but I think collectively people accept and agree that South Bronx is considered the root of the birthplace of hip hop music. Now,
that's awesome.
We know that it's evolved and it's grown and it's had so many different kind of derivations of the music and the culture. But I think when you think of the roots of it, most people will acknowledge that that's in New York, whatever borough you want to kind of contribute to, whatever. But from New York, it kind of expand, and the exodus of stuff where different cultural influences took it all around the world, actually. And think of what New York is, being kind of the cultural center of the world in many cases. So many different influences bring that. So I won't beat it to death. I know a lot of my friends, really good friends, will talk about the correlations of hip hop and reggae or dancehall, and how the two have a lot of roots in hip hop, or what some people will phrase as just rap music is really kind of the genre from hip hop. But there are a lot of influences from all over the place. You have blues, obviously. You have dance hall. You have roots of jazz. And I think in many cases, you could actually fairly attribute a lot of those other genres to hip hop because think of the sampling, think of the lyrical content. I think very specifically, and I always have this debate with friends of mine, I think one of the people who should be the most acknowledged in hip hop, and always say this, always thought this was a big deal, was really James Brown. I think James Brown's sound influence, James Brown's ad lib is really, I would really consider James Brown one of the godfathers of hip hop. And I don't think anyone denies his influence, but I don't think he gets quite enough credit, because a lot of what we think of, from break beats to some of the sounds and the arrangement, is really based on a lot of James Brown music from the 60s and the 70s and whatnot. But in any event, whatever your position is, I just want to make sure we give a shout out and acknowledge that this culture, and it's not just a sound, it's a culture. It's when you think about the elements of MC and DJ and b-boy and graffiti, and some people definitely throw in their fashion.
Yep.
It's global. It's truly global, and
absolutely.
And it's influenced and impacted people from one side of the earth to the other side of the earth. And I think the unique part of it is it's really authentically a music that reflects not only, but was rooted in African-American culture in urban areas. And it's just grown and amalgamated and transformed so many different ways. So with that being said, I just want to shout that out and acknowledge that. And I didn't get to post my little tribute to it yesterday because I was running so much, but I'm saying it today. So in any event, happy birthday, hip hop. Thank you for all that you've given me and the influences you've allowed me to have. And some of the, I would even, funny enough, and I'll say this and I'll digress a little bit. I would even say, good morning, Tiffany. How are you doing today?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Good, Tiff. We were talking a little bit about yesterday being, quote unquote, the official 50th birthday of hip hop as a genre and as a culture, actually. And I was going to allude to when we first started doing this show, and I remember kind of Tiffany commenting saying, like, you guys doing something different. Like you bring something different to the arena in the nonprofit space, and it's something to it. But I think, being honest with you, hip hop is the influence of this show. It's always beds of music, and some of our approaches are non-traditional philanthropy. And I think I would attribute some of that to hip hop. So I don't know what was your experience. So Amit, is there any hip hop song or anything that resonates that you remember the first song you heard or the first experience you had? And maybe it's not. Maybe you were a hard rock or a soft rock or whatever genre when you were in school.
Well, in full disclosure, I'm all kind of music, actually. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
I like everything. But no, definitely. You know, I think probably you and I are the same age, approximately, right? So I grew up in the late 80s. I grew up in the 80s, and in college in the early 90s, right? So I think probably like the earliest probably would be, you know, like Eminem, you know, Dr. Dre, that time frame. I think, you know what I mean? And I think that, you know, I mean, and those guys are still around, obviously. Mm-hmm. So I think that would be like probably like the earliest, or not earliest. I mean, I heard stuff earlier, of course, but the stuff that more resonated with me was probably those two guys, right? Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, right? I mean, you think about like Grandmaster Flash, and you know, you're about the sampling and all that stuff. But I wouldn't say that I am an aficionado of that. I
got you.
But I don't want to claim to be something I'm not, right? I mean,
I got it, and I respect that absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So I think probably like the early 90s, but that gets into like a little bit of like it's a more harder edge, which was interesting when I go through phases, and then, you know, after that. But yeah, no, I mean, I think
so. Amit is literally telling us he was in the gangster music. He was NWA.
Well, I mean, yeah. Listen, I mean, you know, a little bit of Coolio, right? I mean,
so you were West Coast. Amit says he's West Coast.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. It turns out that but Eminem is more a little more on the east side. But yeah, no, I think that those would probably be my earliest memories, right? You know what I mean? Or like really get exposed to it. Didn't understand it, didn't quite get it, I think, but and of course, you know, Public Enemy. I love Public Enemy. That was cool. So yeah, I would.
Good stuff.
Those would be the earlier ones, you know.
Good stuff. Now, what about you, Tiff? What was your first experience, or is Brown Sugar says, when did you kind of get introduced to hip hop?
I came of age in the 90s. That's my era right there. So I think as a kid, I didn't start really paying attention to rap until Biggie.
Okay.
And I was really into Mary J. Blige and like Jodeci, like that whole bad boy.
Right. So you like the bad boy sound, the whole bad boy sound there. Gal.
And I think, the first time I ever even remember knowing a rap song was a Biggie song. I remember being in 8th grade and actually like rapping along. I think that's the first time that ever happened. So yeah, probably Biggie.
Awesome, good stuff. So look, awesome. I'm an old school. I am old school, but so I wasn't old enough to really appreciate Kool Herc I would probably say African Bambaataa to me with Planet Rock and whatnot. I fuse my experience with hip hop with like going out skating and whatnot when I was, 11, 12. So I probably had a little bit more of an influence a little earlier on. But as I was saying when I first started the show, my first album I ever bought, first wax I ever bought was Heavy D, Living Large. That was my first full album I've ever bought. And then I bought a single from Sweet Tea and Jazzy Joy. So I put myself all the way back there when I say that. But growing up in even Western New York, the influence of New York City and hip hop was just undeniable. And I think that being in that close proximity to New York City, I think that really steered a lot of my position and my experience with hip hop. So in any regard, I just want to acknowledge that 50 years of hip hop that has influenced almost everything in our modern culture, from obviously music, but fashion, advertisement, even cultural nuances. Think about the language. So much of pop culture and language over the last really 30, 40 years has been influenced by hip hop. And it's so funny, and I mention it because it was really kind of passed over or kind of trivialized. Oh, that rap music. That rap. I remember my grandparents would they would always be that. I don't want to hear all that and people spitting, and I just laugh when I say it. But I think the impact again is really undeniable. Well, let's switch it up a little bit. Let's start the show off officially. We are simulcasting on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So let's kick the show off officially, and we'll come back on this side, on the other side. It's Saturday morning. Do you know where your funders are?
People want to see that they're a part of it.
Just want to thank you all because, I feel as though that you all was placed in my life for a reason.
Still step up and be the winner of the week. Let's go.
Nonprofit Cheat Codes with your nonprofit dream team, featuring Tiffany Allen, Amit Dakar, Gerald Moore, and your host, Makil Shaw. Nonprofit Cheat Codes.
Cheat code. I was going to be quiet.
It's Saturday morning. Do you know where your funders are? Let's go.
And if you don't know, now you know.
And if you don't know, now you know. Good morning. Again, it is Saturday, August 12th, 2023, and you are here in Nonprofit Cheat Codes. Good morning to all of the folks in the room. Good morning to everyone who's in the net sphere, whatever that may be, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn. Welcome. And Twitter, welcome, and we appreciate having you guys. So we can't hear you, but you can definitely have in with your chat and drop something in the chat here. For all the folks in the room, please do chime in and tell us where you're listening in from today. Let's rep your city. We are in Nonprofit Cheat Codes, and this week, the title or the theme is True Colors. And we're going to talk a little bit about authenticity when it comes to this space of nonprofits. What does that look like? Why is it important? Why is it relevant in today to help you raise awareness and funding and really build impact of your mission? How does showing your true colors? So in essence, I want to talk about authenticity and how authenticity plays into building strong nonprofits, whether that's being vulnerable, whether that's making stronger emotional connections, or even whether that's making you more relatable to people that you serve and the communities that support you. So Tiffany and Meek, thank you for being here this morning. How were your weeks this week? Let me get into the weekly wins. Let's jump right in. Win it. All right, Amit, any wins this week?
Week was good, man. Summer week, so we're trying to always spend a little bit of relaxation time if possible. It's busy time of year.
Okay.
So I had 2 wins actually. So And one actually, since we start off with the music related here, we'll go with the music one first.
Okay.
I swear I didn't know you were going to talk about the birthday, hip hop's birthday. So this was actually independent of you saying that. So
it was, we planned it. We planned it, and I'm just joking.
No, I know. We are just that good. We didn't even talk about it. We planned it. So at first, I get the first one is sort of a smaller one, but so there's a theater here called the Little Theater here in Rochester, New York. It's a smaller theater.
Know it well.
You used to do a lot of I know you've been there, and so it's independent movies, but now they do mainstream movies. And so they were actually showing. Speaking of music, I was more of an alternative music guy when I was in high school. I know I'm Indian and like an alternative music. That's a little bit weird, but so Depeche Mode. I don't know if there's any Depeche Mode fans in this room or not, but they actually had a movie back in the day called 101. It was the 101st concert that they had on one of their tours back in the 80s, 1988 to be exact. Okay. And the movie was remastered and is being re-released. And so it's considered a documentary. And so they showed it, they screened it at the Little Theater, actually. Okay, awesome. That was a lot of fun. Yeah, it was really fun. And I'd never seen that on the big screen. I think obviously I watch movies at home and stuff, but there's nothing like going to the movie theater, you know what I mean? And just the feel of it, right? And just the excitement of everybody. And I got to tell you, just seeing this movie, and this goes back to what you were just saying, Mike, about, growing up with hip hop and stuff and growing up with music, right? Just growing with music in your life is so important. And for me, at least, is, you know what I mean? And so it's just really cool. It took me right back to high school. It took me back to 1988, you know what I mean? And I don't remember where I was. That it was the concert was filmed over a number of weeks, but like the concert actually was in the Rose Bowl. It was in Pasadena in June. I think it was June 18th of 88. I don't know where I was that day, of course, but I remember what was going on around that time in my life, and my life was complicated at that time because of various factors. But you know what I mean. So that was a huge win to go see some people, like-minded people, seeing them. Yeah, man. Yeah, and whatever movie you like, whatever movie or a TV show or an experience that really brings back some memories and brings back some fun times, that's a win. That's a major win, and I'll take that as a win. And whether you like that music or not, it doesn't even matter. It could be anything. Just do that. So that was a good win. Had a great time. Great music. It was done really well. And anyway, that was one win. That was one of the week, and I wish I could just tell you the feeling that I had when you leave. Anytime we go to a concert, or whatever. But this one, just for some reason, hit home. I think just for the '80s, and my father passed away on August 2nd of '91. Oh wow! And so August is always, August is. So I think that was on my mind. Again, I don't dwell on that, but just it's on the mind, right? And you think about things, and I was talking about my trips to India when I was younger with one of my friends, actually last week, as a matter of fact. And so I think that was all just in my mind, I think, you know what I mean? And then you show me this from 1988, and I think it all just sort of like, wow, this is kind of cool.
All kind of comes together, right? Absolutely.
I think so, Mike, So anyways, that was a win for me. That was a fun win. And then, but the other real win of the week was, I think my saga of my software project is ongoing. I was able to, so if you recall last time, I know it is a saga, right? Anyways, I'll keep it brief because I want to get onto other people's stuff here. I was supposed to do some work to get in a point where I met somebody, if you recall, and he was going to help me, and I was supposed to do some work to get him to help me. Right. And I did that, and we had a meeting last week. We had lunch and went over some stuff, and it was really cool. The data that I was able to give him was in a good format. I had to do a little bit more formatting, but I learned a lot and made some tangible progress. So I just want to, and again, I'll spare the group the gory details of all of it. But just suffice. Thanks, Mike. Suffice it to say that I got off my bum and I did that. Met up with this guy and doing it and making the progress. It felt nice. And let's see what happens. I'm looking forward to this fall, really having some tangible comps that I can show some people and test it out a little bit. But that was nice to have lunch with him and make some progress on that.
Well, congratulations to be absolutely just to talk about the nostalgia. Absolutely. And it can wake up something in us. It can really bring us back to a time. And I think we connect music so much with memories that it's even more powerful. I definitely do. As I even hear a song, it can take me back to a whole place. So I never.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the thing with this movie was that, it was like, it was like just seeing people. You know, it was a simpler time, and I don't mean it like in a cliche, simpler time, but like it was just a different time, right? You know what I mean? All of us, growing up at those times, and just seeing that on the screen, we're just used to so much of the. I think for me personally, I think there's so much of the social media and the reaction of this, and people getting, and you know what? And it was just like a time when we just had fun. We went, and again, I didn't go to that concert, but it's just fun. Anyways, Mike, I completely agree with you with the nostalgia, and I think it is a powerful force that we thankfully we can't take that away from us, right? We all have that in our own lives, positive, hopefully some positive things. So it was fun. It was a good time.
Good stuff. And Tiff, any wins of the week for you, small or large?
I honestly have to think about that because it's been a quiet week.
It's been quiet? That's different, Tiff.
Yeah, it's been quiet. Yeah, it's been different. I saw a win was I was able to do some yard work and get some stuff done in my yard. And also, I'm meeting with my team today, so it's good to plan for the next year. So that's a win.
Good stuff. So how often do you meet with your team, Tiff? Do you guys do like weekly, monthly? How often?
I meet with my full team monthly, but we do like a retreat twice a year where we do like long-term planning. So that's what we're doing today.
Awesome. So this is kind of scoping out like for a 6-month period or projections on ideals. Cool. Good stuff.
Yeah, it's just like a check-in on where we are, where we want Boston Budget to go and what needs to happen to get there. So, yep.
It's funny that you say that because I remember, and it's been a while because I haven't had a large team. Well, not large, but I haven't had a larger operation over the last 5 years. But I remember when I was in Western New York, I would always do a retreat for my team. And it would probably be about anywhere from 5 of us to 10 of us at times. And I would rent a cabin, or we did all kinds of different things. We went to amusement park, started out in a kind of a meeting space, and then went to amusement parks. We had cabins and cookouts, multiple ways to get people's interest and keep them engaged. And I definitely I miss that camaraderie of getting people's ideals and just being able to let our hair down and brainstorm, all focused on a similar thing. So I really do miss that, and I envy that. So I hope you guys come up with some great ideals and some great strategies and projections moving forward.
Yes, thank you for that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm not at the point where I can pay for trips yet. And do I?
It's coming. It's coming.
But we'll get there.
That's right.
I absolutely know it's coming. And I haven't seen you do too many things not thoroughly, so I could imagine this will just be another one. But I will say this before I move on. Some of the ideals that come when people can just relax and kind of be themselves, and it's not always target or metric driven, is really powerful. Now, obviously, it's a quote unquote work retreat, but sometimes people do amazing things when they can just let their hair down and let the juices flow, if you will. So I think that's a really good thing, a great opportunity to dive deep and really get feedback from your team. I think it means a lot. So switching up a little bit, my wins.
Mike,
go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I almost had another win of the week, which would have been a meeting with Tiffany during the week. Unfortunately, because of some scheduling things, it didn't quite work out. And I was just going to say that I was looking forward to that. Unfortunately, we'll catch up with Tiffany. But I was trying to. I was in the car. This is the craziest thing. Calling in. It was a Zoom call, but I was in my car. Okay. And when you type in the passcode, to the meeting, right? I was typing in the passcode, and it started with a 0. And,
wow.
And I think it's 6 digits, right? So yeah, no biggie. So I'm typing in the passcode, and for some reason Zoom wouldn't recognize the 0 as the first number, so it would only recognize the next 5 numbers in the passcode.
Yeah, I've never had that problem.
Is that crazy?
Right, that's different.
I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, is it just me or what? So anyway, I just was gonna say it's always it's always a win to catch up with Tiffany, and unfortunately, it didn't work this week. But
see, on me, you open up the door. I think Tiffany's trying to avoid us and meet. Everybody trying to meet with Tiff.
No, I think that.
And then we can't see Tiff, so I'm gonna start thinking that Tiff's a myth.
Whatever.
Tiff might be a myth to me. Ain't nobody never seen her face to face. We got to look.
I was going to say, definitely a possibility.
I'm wondering. Look, they cloned Tyrone. I got it.
I'm going over you.
Nah, I got it. Look, I'm wondering now. Me, you done tried. I done tried. Gerald done tried. Ain't nobody seen Tiff face to face. All right. Let me find out. Tiffany is some 56-year-old man. Come on, Tiff.
Hold on, wait. If you're 56, that's not that far from us. Don't say that. Don't
right. I'm just saying, Tiff, look, we're in a different time of me, and I'm not judging.
That's right.
I'm just saying, Tiff, just tell us what it is. I'm trying to see you face to face now. Look, now it's something intentional. I got to see Tiffany. But in any event, we're going to collectively get to see Tiffany one way or another. I'm going to vouch for it. And she's going to have to be intentional and tell me, I just don't want to meet y'all because that's strike 3 right there. Meet Tiffany don't want to meet none of us. Look, Tiff, we'll wear a mask. We'll wear a mask.
Whatever. Yeah, whatever it is, no problem.
Right. I don't have a problem wearing a mask, Tiff. I'm just saying, can we meet you, Tiff? Can we see you face to face?
You know I am. I'm in Maryland.
Well, look. I'll be coming that way, so I'm gonna definitely put it out. I can put it out there too early though, meet, because if we put it out there too early, she'll make sure we don't get to see it. Right. So anyway, let me switch up. My wins this week. I had a few good wins this week. I think honestly, I try to operate with an attitude of gratitude, literally to the point where I know some people get tired of it, but I don't have any options. If I don't be optimistic and find the half full and everything, this life gets real tedious. So this week I had some great wins, brought some new clients aboard. Very excited about that. Got some, as I like to say here, getting comfortable being uncomfortable. I stretched a little bit. So I brought college on board as a new client this week. I brought an entertainment establishment on board as a new client this week. And I've been really focusing or putting some extra focus on helping high value. I would say everywhere, all high value, but high profile stakeholders to build their personal brands and what that looks like. So I'm really excited because I got 2 new clients in that space that I think I will be able to really contribute to some really important goals they have coming up. So that's exciting. What else happened this week on my wins? Yes, thank you. I mean, I appreciate it. I have some new speaking engagements coming up. And you know what's funny? Let me say this because I talked about this. I'm trying to think, when did I talk about this? It may have been Monday. So it's interesting because as the summer is closing, a lot of new things are popping in. So it's kind of like harvest season. I've been using that as my theme. So I have one of my brands is Motivated by Mike, and I've been doing that for about 6 years now. And it's really about positive affirmations and self-care and really building community in that space and finding the positive in things, as you will. And I know some people think it's nauseating a little bit, but I don't know any other way. So I've been working. My theme for the month of August was really about harvest season and how August is the beginning of really harvesting the things that we've sown into. All right. And to start to really reap some of the benefits of the work you've done. So one of the things that I talked about this week was that sometimes people don't prepare for growth. We all want to be successful. We all want to have the things we invest in to give us ROI. But in fact, many times people aren't really prepared for the win. And it's funny using this context. So we put in the hard work, we put in the labor, we put in the planning, we put in the late nights in the hours, and then what you build starts to grow. It starts to happen. And I always like to refer to this old commercial. And I don't know if you guys ever saw it, probably about 10 years ago. And it's like a .com commercial. And it's a small firm of people, maybe 5 people, and they're around a computer. And I think it's a UPS commercial. And they launch their website, and you see one sale come up, and the one sale, everybody's like, "Wow, one sale!" And then it goes to 2, and it goes to 24, and everybody's like, "Yeah, this is happening in real time." And it goes from 24 to like 204. Yes, 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 yes. And then it goes to 24,000, and then it goes to 100,000, and the smiles in the chairs slowly or evolve into like, oh ish, like oh shoot. And I say that with a little humor to say a lot of times people aren't really prepared for growth, and as you put in the work, you got to be prepared to harvest the results of that work. You got to be prepared to not just take the growth, but have strategies to maintain it and even to duplicate it. And I think, as funny as that may sound, how many times have you planned something that had a great vision, like, yeah, I know this is going to be successful, and then it happens, and you're like, oh shoot, they're calling. Oh shoot, they want to order. Oh shoot, we got a line of 200 people. And I say that again with a little humor there, but I think it's a real thing. And when you think about this, that's what's happening with me. I planted some seeds over the last couple years, and I've been reasonably successful, but I had, along with this week, I had several clients that are return clients that maybe I had a consultation with, or maybe I had a small conversation with, and they're coming back saying, "Hey, Mike, I talked to you a couple years ago. I wasn't ready then, but I'm ready, right? And I got a project that I need support with." And I just mentioned that to say, have you guys experienced something similar where you kind of put seeds in the ground and you look up, and then while it's passing, you look out the window kind of, it's like, oh, wow, I got a beanstalk. Tiffany and Meat, have you had any experience similar to that?
Oh, yeah. I think that I look at especially my year in seasons, and I know that what I do now will benefit 6 months later.
Right.
So I try to think about what are the things that I need to do just to up my visibility and just to make sure that things will come around when I need them. And that's really important now that I'm on my own.
Right.
It's starting to get real. But I think the other thing is also like sowing into people who have already showed interest in you and not forgetting to circle back with those people. Sometimes we always search for the new customer, or we're trying to get seen by the new person, but it's much more advantageous sometimes to just stick with who already show interest, who already bought something, but may want to go deeper with you. So that's what I've been reflecting on lately.
And I think that's very important. I think when you say that, Tiff, it reminds me, kind of cliche, excuse me. My dad is 70 something, and he's an old timer, but he always talks about, like, their church organization and how, well, we talked about this multiple times. The churches, many times, not every church, but can be so focused on finding millennials, and it's not just church, but I use church as the example in this, that they forget about the foundation or legacy folks. And millennials are great, right? They're great for energy and perspective and new ideals, but it's still the legacy that pays the light bills. It's the legacy that contributes to the foundational monies of the organization. And I think sometimes you can turn off your existing customers by not cultivating and really taking care of them. Me?
Yeah, no, I was just going to agree with Tiffany just said what you're saying. I mean, you guys know my social media prowess, which is basically, zero or no, it's actually more than zero.
It's getting better on me. It's getting better.
Right? Yeah, it's getting a little better.
Right. Give yourself some credit.
I appreciate that. But 95% of my work or my business is coming from referrals, right? So to what you just said, Mike and Tiffany, is to plant seeds. I'm planting seeds all day. And I think I have to better utilize other strategies because those seeds take time, right? And it's someone I may have talked to a year ago will say, now it's a good time. As you were just saying, Mike, in your example, someone had a project come through and said, Mike, this is the time. Let's do something together,
Right.
And so I completely agree with that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And but I think it's as with everything, I believe that diversifying one's approach to getting work is important too. So in my case, my social part of what I do, social media and stuff like that, is lacking. I need to beef that up because I need that business as well. I can't just rely only on referrals, which take time, and I don't want to, you obviously don't want to be out there looking, like
Crazy.
Right. The same people all the time. Yeah, looking desperate, right? Or looking too thirsty, right? I mean, and I think that's not good. So yeah, but what you just said, I completely agree, Mike. And I think I'm glad that you're thinking along those lines as well. And I think I'm glad that you're seeing that people are coming around. One question I did have for you though was and what you're doing, because now you've been obviously you've been planting these seeds. Well, you've been planting seeds for a long time because you've been an entrepreneur for a long time. But in recent times since you left your position at the hospital, are you seeing the economy is getting a little? You're hearing a lot of talk about the economy being a little bit tough out there. Are you seeing any of that out there, Mike? I mean, in your business?
Wow. Yes. Yeah. I saw. Okay. Well, just look, I'm trying to temper myself so I don't give it into a dissertation, but yes, I absolutely have. Let me say, over the last, literally over the last a year and a half, I saw a dramatic impact. What I found, and it took me a little while, not a long time, but it took me a little while to kind of navigate it. So during the pandemic, of course, this room actually is a ideal that came about because of the pandemic. And what I mean by that, Clubhouse would have not, in my opinion, grown to the capacity it grew had it not been that people were at home with nothing to do, being told not to leave out. And Clubhouse gave something for people who were basically cabin fever to do. So this space, but also our show, our movement was really birth of Clubhouse. So I would say at one time, 80% of my leads were from Clubhouse, literally.
Gotcha.
But at the same time, the reason I mention it is because there was a lot, and we've had this conversation multiple times. It was a lot of discretionary income coming because of some of the incentives or some of the initiatives that were coming because of the pandemic, from the EIDL to the PPP to some other grants and resources. Small businesses, for the first time ever in a long time, had some discretionary funds. They literally had some funds to make some decisions with. And as that money started to decline, I will promise you, I started kind of like, man, what's going on? And I saw the decline because people didn't have some discretionary money. With the discretionary money, they could be a little bit more nimble. So as that money started to decline and kind of dry up, therein lies a lot of people's ability to make some decisions, or for the first time ever, to be able to invest in themselves certain ways that did decline. So just to kind of wrap this up, what I had to learn, and I've learned over the last year, is to diversify my strategies and my spaces. So to Gerald's credit, and Gerald is on his anniversary vacation this week, but I will give him a lot. He's in Costa Rica. I'll give him a lot of credit in this space because I think Tiffany might as well, because he was really pushing us on LinkedIn strategies to go more, try LinkedIn, put a little bit more resources and times behind LinkedIn. And I've definitely been doing that. And I've seen some great results coming from it. And then leveraging my local chamber. I'm probably going to do a whole nother show on that in the future, because I've had some really tremendous benefits of being a part of my local chamber and their support and involvement and helping me get gain exposure in my market has really been a game changer for me. So all that being said, I would definitely say I've seen some changes. But funny enough of me, and I'm sure both of you can relate to this, sometimes it's perspective. And I'm not saying that downtimes in the economy aren't real, because they are really real. But sometimes we just have to be nimble, and we have to be prepared to adapt or pivot and take those as opportunities. Sometimes challenges become opportunities, all depending on how you look at them.
Well, and I think that's exactly right. And didn't mean to digress from the conversation, but I appreciate you saying that, because I'm always talking to business people, and the three of us are business people here, and all of us actually in the room are, right? All of us definitely are.
Absolutely.
But the three of us on the stage right now at the moment are. And it's just curious because you see the markets are very strong this year. But you go to the restaurants, you go to meetings, you go to different places. The printers, and you see some softness out there. So I'm always looking to learn firsthand on the ground with people to to see what is really happening. So that's why I asked the questions, because you're one of, the three of us are on the ground, right? We're
Right.
doing it. And
Absolutely.
so we're curious as to how you're seeing it out there. And I definitely see some pain out there. I definitely see some people, businesses and not-for-profits, because, obviously, with budgets being tight, you know what I mean? And funding, not drying up, but, getting a little touchy out there.
It is.
That affects the program that for all not-for-profits, right? So I just, but anyways, I appreciate you saying that. Just trying to get some data points and get some
great
perspective
things
from what what's going on. So I appreciate you.
And I wanted to throw another one out there. I mean, we do it all through the show, but another win in the week I had, and she's not here today, but I had a great conversation with Jessica yesterday, and Jessica's been a loyal listener and follower of our show. I consider her to be an extended part of our family here. She always supports and give good contributions and feedback. And I had a really great conversation with Jessica about some of the initiatives that she's working on, and just about her. I got to really meet and get to know her as a person, and it was a really great conversation. And I mentioned it because, as you heard me kind of refer to, that we are in this space, right? And you guys are so generous and so gracious to come here and host with me and be a part of this platform in this space of nonprofit cheat codes every week. And I like to mention it or to be very appreciative that I'm not paying you to be here. No one's paying you to be here. So you're taking this time out of your Saturdays. If we can get great referrals, that's good. If not, I don't think you guys are here for that. Thank goodness, because as we obviously have seen the dips and the flows. But I mention it because Amit, I've met Amit, and Amit is here because I've known Amit in the past, and he's a great person. He's a amazing professional at what he does. But there's so many people in this space, and even Tiffany on this panel, that I literally consider Tiffany a part of my kind of support circle. Literally, she might not feel the same, but I literally see her as a part of my support system, and Amit. But I've never met Tiffany face to face. I've never shaken Tiffany's hand. I never pat Tiffany on the back. And I say that with a little humor because this has become more of the norm in our world right now. And especially over the last 3 years. Think about it. How many people have you talked to on a regular cadence, that you've interacted, that you formed really real bonds? I really consider these relationships to be real bonds. I don't consider they are real bonds, but so many people I've never met face to face. And funny enough, out of the clients, I would say 260 or 70 clients over the last 2.5 years, only 2 of them have I met face to face. And ironically, Jamila's in the room today. Jamila's one. I have another client in Philly, ironically, that I met face to face. But I'm making this point to say we are having these virtual interactions that are really resulting in real connections and look, in real money and real examples and experiences. And I wanted to get you guys feedback on that. Amit, Tiffany?
No, I was just going to say, again, I feel like I'm agree with everything vehemently with what you're saying, but I am. If you recall, I was at a wedding 2 weeks ago in Connecticut, and I think I wasn't on that weekend. Anyways, that wedding was a client of mine. The first time I physically met this person was at his wedding. We actually developed a relationship over 3-4 years, right? Him and his girlfriend at the time, and now his wife. And it was such a nice relationship, just over Zoom, phone calls and emails and texts and whatever, but mostly over Zoom. They said, "Listen to me, can you come to our wedding?" And so I went to the wedding. I'm like, it's funny when I was walking up. I was walking, up to, there was a area where they're having a little, like the night before the wedding, like the rehearsal dinner. So I was walking up, and he was the first person I saw when I walked up. And I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? It was
right.
Really
it's kind of weird. A little. Definitely,
it was.
But it's a little weird because
like, man, like what's you know what I mean? But I actually knew other people at the wedding too, so it wasn't like completely going in like on a blind date kind of thing. But no, to go back to what you're saying, Mike, absolutely. And I'm trying to make what I'm trying to do is I have a lot of clients that are in different states as well as you do. and trying to visit them. You know what I mean? And I have a few in Raleigh.
Right.
You know what I mean? I got to get to Raleigh and see you and see the people. So no, I think that's exactly right. And I think, you know, like I said, I'm a big proponent. I'm being annoying by keep talking about this, but just breaking bread with people, right, and hanging out with people, and just shaking someone's hand and having a nice conversation. I really, really, really enjoy that sort of thing. And so I'm on a sort of like to visit all these people in person. But yeah, I have a pretty significant base of people that I've actually never met, just like you and probably Tiffany too. And look forward to catching up with them, you know, over the years as I can to meet face to face.
And Tiff, have you had? And I know you have. I just want to hear your reflection on it.
Yeah, same. So I have like a bunch of people who I've met through Boss on a Budget who I'm really close to, but I've never met. And there's one of my followers who actually I had on my podcast, and she's in Arkansas, and she's been with me since 2017.
Wow.
And we have yet to see face to face, but we call each other sister. We tell each other we love each other because I support her. I love what she does. And I just love her spirit. So it's true. It's like so many people like y'all, even though you will see me one day. Gee.
Well, whatever. Don't wait on me.
So I mean, even like y'all, like.
Right.
I think it's easier for me also because I am an introvert, and the interesting part is I'm quiet in person. So like it's easier to get to know me as a person kind of online first because if you were to meet me in person, I'm very quiet and I'm observant first. And so then it takes me a while to warm up to people. So this is actually better and easier for me because it helps me fill people out before I really started trusting.
Well, it took me about 2 years of virtual for I feel like I got a little peak of trust. Look, I always laugh with Tiffany. I was like, Tiffany, now when you gonna give me a real phone number besides the Google Voice? But
oh my God.
Listen, I've learned so much from Tiff, but I've learned so
yet, man. We're just not there
we're just not there yet, right? She just don't look. She don't know me like that. She don't know me like that. So hold on before you go somewhere, because I know you say you have to leave early today, but I literally held this off last week just because of Tiffany, and then Tiffany's telling me she's bouncing on me today, but it's okay. So one of the things that we wanted to talk about, and I want to get back to this about authenticity, and I think this is relevant to this idea of being authentic and who you present to the world, and is it really being a little vulnerable? Because I think people are uncomfortable with that sometimes. It doesn't always feel safe, and it's sometimes not safe, but it's necessary to build your brand. It's necessary to make the impact. And specifically, we were talking about laughing. I got ribbed on a little bit. I got raked over the virtual coals a little bit by Tiffany and Gerald about being a newcomer to Insecure and the show, and learning some of the nuances and some of the I think signature parts of the show. So as we were talking about it, literally, Tiffany brought a great point, and I didn't even think about it when I was talking about it, that the character that Issa Rae plays, who's a really great, I believe, entertainer, but also a businesswoman, is a nonprofit worker. So the show is real now. When I say it's real, you got to be prepared because it go a whole lot of different places. But it also shows the vulnerability and the imperfection of people and how those imperfections actually make them a lot of who they are. So, Tiffany, can you give us a little synopsis of your perspective? And I'm going to call you the house expert on Insecure, of why that show resonates with you and why it connects with you specifically.
Okay, I'm an expert. Okay. So I think it resonated with me, and I think people in my age bracket and a little bit younger too, is because it's hard to see good representation of Black relationships, Black women, Black men. Like it's hard to see that shown authentically on screen. And the reason why I love Issa Rae so much is because she's so true to herself,
right,
that even in how she does her work, it's like the product is a reflection of how she approaches her work and how she is herself. Like she started a web series called The Awkward Black Girl because she's awkward. And she leaned into that and used that as part of her brand to grow and to get insecure. So that's the first thing. I just love that it just permeates her authenticity, but also it shows real reflections and real stories of regular Black people.
Right.
So
right.
it doesn't have to be sensationalized. It doesn't. It just is what it is, and it was just refreshing to hear conversations on a national TV show that you have with your girlfriends every day. Like you could relate to what was being seen, but also you could see the journey they went through from season 1 to season 5. If you haven't seen it, you really need to watch it. Like to see the journey of where they started. They were all a mess, and that's the reason why it's called Insecure, because every character has
It's
a flaw.
insecure. Every character is insecure, absolutely.
Every single character, right? And it's polarizing at times because you want to ride for one character over the other, but as you see them grow and have it's just life. And you see, even at the end of the series, they're still not perfect, and they make decisions that a lot of people don't agree with, but it's what's best for them. So for me, the reason why I love Insecure, and it's one of my favorite shows of all time, is because of how authentic it is. And even though, every experience Issa had wasn't my own experience, I could still relate to it. Hold
on. Tiff had to throw that little disclaimer in there. Look, I was just about to come at her. I was just about to say, now, Tiff, I'm wondering now, because Insecure kind of raw with some stuff. So look, so she made sure she ended with that little caveat. No, it's not necessarily my experience.
No, I'm not going to Coachella taking Molly. I'm not doing that. So.
I was going to say, this is an HBO special, right?
Right. You got that part of me. Show, right? Yes. So look, when I tell you my lips were getting fixed to say something, and she just, well, first, let me make this point, though. It may not be my experiences, but I can empathize and appreciate their artistic expression.
Absolutely.
How long has it been off, Tiff?
Ooh, I get my years mixed up with the pandemic, so I can't remember when the season ended, but it doesn't matter. I still watch it. So
yeah, I literally just discovered it 2 months ago because I was just coming through downstairs to come get my water from my office and whatnot, and I'm like, "What's this show you watching?" And then I could hear a couple clips, and I'm like, "Yo, what's that?" and then sometimes she'd be like, "Well, watch it. Why don't you watch it?" I'm like, "Nah, I've heard about Insecure. It's kind of a chick flick." And sounding sexist, but as I started, so I watched I just kind of, sitting at the table, sitting at a little dinette table between the kitchen and the family room. And I was just listening a little. I wasn't really paying attention to it. Look, I wasn't really paying attention to it, but I got an earshot of some stuff. So one day I just so happened to pop Netflix up on because the whole series is on Netflix now, and my one of my computers in my office, and I watched half an episode, and before I knew it, I went.
That's code for Mike binged it the whole next day.
I binged the whole damn series.
Okay, all right, no, you're getting to that.
So it's definitely something for everyone there, and I love the richness of the characters, and I think. And that's another thing they do. They develop the characters, so it's not just Issa Rae.
Right.
They develop the ancillary characters as well. And I will say, Tiffany, for me, what I found in it, and I think the shows that relate to us the most are the shows that we see maybe some of ourselves in, or we see parts of ourselves that we are either not comfortable facing, or that we aspire to. And as I watch the show, I am I'm a self-proclaimed awkward guy, right? I've never fit in. I've never been a part of the cool crowd, but I actually consider that to be one of my superpowers. I'm not your stereotypical 50-year-old Black man in any measure, right? And I say that because when I was younger, I used to be uncomfortable with that. I would think that I was a weirdo, right? And as I learned to embrace my awkwardness, then I found my lane. I found my superpower. I found that I was made this little weird geek with all these different things that really inspire me on purpose. it really allows me to communicate and empathize with people on a different level. So Tiffany and Meet, would you relate to that? And I think you are going to be able to, but how do you feel about that? Finding that space where you're not perfect. You're actually perfectly imperfect.
Well, I'm perfect, so I can't relate with that at all.
Oh, okay.
Just being clear about that.
Just keeping it real.
I always keep it real. I mean, I'm just absolutely perfect. Right. So that's what I've been told. So, but no, I mean, I think that's what it is. I think the cool thing is, like, I think when Mike and you and I were growing up, like in high school, because late '80s, you know, if you stuck out a little bit, it was just a little. It was just a little
that wasn't
tougher,
cool,
right? You know, right? Yeah, you know, and I'm the poster child of that. I'm more like you know, I'm more of an introverted kind of person. I do like to meet with people, but like I like it on my own. Like on my own terms, you know what I mean? Meaning like, you know, like more one-on-one, smaller groups. I'm not a big group kind of person. So I can completely relate with that. And I think but now I think the nice thing is that, as you said, Mike, make your message, and not that being awkward like I am or whatever, or whatever introverted is a mess at all. But, you know, but sometimes instead of like leaning out of it, lean into it, right? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think that concept or that feeling or that like, sort of way to approach things is sort of like in vogue, I think, you know what I mean? And I think it's here to stay because I think most of us are like that, right? You know, all the stuff that we see on the TV and whatever is real life, right? Real life is sort of like what three of us in this room is talking about. So yeah, no, I completely agree. And I look forward to seeing that show. You mentioned last week, Mike, and I'm going to take a look at it and see. It kind of reminds me of like, remember that show on HBO, Girls? You know, I never saw all of those shows, but like, and then there's like, you know, Friends. It's like this group of people.
The L word. I mean, you talking about the L? No, I'm just joking.
Oh, well,
I'm just.
You know, I'm
just joking.
HBO
be getting in the nitty gritty.
Me in trouble.
Listen, when you say HBO, I think we all can acknowledge that HBO is cutting edge. But I think it makes, obviously it can make you uncomfortable, but it's intentional. And I think sometimes it can go too far, but I think some things go too far, right? And everything can't be sanitized. It's who it may be appropriate for or not is different. Right. But we're adults, right? So we know what we're watching and we choose to watch things, and those stories are real for a lot of people. So I think it's important to tell those stories in authentic ways, just like our space here. We do not talk about nonprofits in any traditional sense, but that's not by mistake, because some of the people that are doing this work aren't cookie cutter philanthropists that only have tea and talk about donations and quiet checks. Some of these people are nitty gritty down in the trenches, helping people who need help. So I think it makes sense. I think it's apropos.
I think that's exactly right, and I think that's why I think that people in this room, I think, are on the ground, as you said, just doing these things. And there were things in the past that, you know, may have been more difficult to get funded. But now with this, more people feeling more open-minded about things and more, you know, understanding some of the challenges, that is really a good thing, because people are in this room will get more funding, right? Or get more awareness.
Absolutely.
Get more, you know what I mean? And not that we wouldn't have in years past. It was just more difficult. Now I think it's a little easier to do that, which then can help you with breakthrough. So I completely agree. And the L word, can I just say one thing on that show? I watched a couple of those shows.
Okay.
A couple. The only reason I watched it was because I was in love with the Jennifer Beals. I think is she the main or one of the characters in that show? I don't remember. She was in Flashdance. I mean, I am really dating myself. I am completely dating myself. Anyways, I was always in love with that girl. And she was, I think, one of the main characters. I actually watched a couple of those episodes because of her. You know what I mean? And then I dropped off. But I think that was her in that show. Yeah. So, anyways, this one. That's it. Maybe that's a little too much sharing going on
Tiffany,
here. But Dominique said that. Yeah.
Tiffany here, meet tippy toeing. It's nothing wrong with watching the L word. I didn't know what show you were talking about. I'm not judging you. You watch whatever you want.
No, I'm
right.
Listen, man,
I'm saying,
I'm perfect, right? I'm keeping it real.
Right. There you go. So as we talk about these diverse shows and diverse interpretations, I want to also connect the ideal that It's telling stories of people that you may not have experienced, of people that you may not have next door. And I think one of the key things here, and I've been working on this theme a lot this summer, is that we really have to learn to get comfortable being uncomfortable. We have to learn to stretch, right? And if you only, and I think this is totally relevant to nonprofits in this space, if you only interact with people who look and eat and drink and talk and party the way you party, life is going to be diminished in the sense that you're going to miss a lot of exposure. You're going to, I'm not saying you can't be good in your own circle, but we grow when we stretch. We grow when we get uncomfortable. And I think in this space is very important. So much of the information that we've shared in this space over the last 2.5 years is stuff that some people have never been exposed to. How many people got nonprofits or 501c3s and didn't know what the hell it was about? Excuse my language. But I say that because they came and they learned. And I'm not saying they only learned from us, but you got in the trenches and you read a book and you followed Tiffany's YouTube. And look, sidebar, Tiff, I wanted to ask you that if you would allow us to partner with you to share on your channel because of how much influence that you had there. But sidebar, that's another conversation. My point, go ahead, Tiff. Okay. I'm saying literally, I think that would be an amazing opportunity. But my point being, in short, is we have to get out of the complacency zone and our comfort zone, whether it's a relationship, whether it's financial, whether it's physical fitness or health. You're not going to grow if you only do what you've always done. As they say, if you only do what you've always done, you only get what you've always got. Right? Gotten. So I'm just mentioning in this space specifically, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Right? Those and this is coming from a self-admitted awkward guy. Right? I found my lane, but that's because I got real comfortable with being who I am. Right? And I'll laugh with you guys as we talk about this. We've talked about a lot of good things today, but this being the anniversary of hip hop, yesterday was the 50th anniversary of hip hop culture. And I grew up at the time, I was born in 1973. I grew up and I consider in the 80s, I would say the 70s, because I was always the baby. I grew up with my grandparents, so my aunts and uncles were like my older siblings in many cases. And I think I had a lot of exposure and a lot of opportunities to things that were probably a little bit before my time. I was kind of an old soul, if you will, old soul. But I mention that because my perspective is different on a lot of things. So I remember trying to be the cool kid. And I don't know if any of you guys can relate to this, but going to school and my cousins talk about hip hop. My cousins, I had some cool cousins. I know that I could write a Bernie Mac or a Tyler Perry type show if I exposed some of the experiences of the people I grew up with, because I got some characters. When I think of Everybody Loves Chris, I got some characters that would be, when I say prime time, we would be on prime time. And I laugh because my cousins were the coolest cats. When I say cool, is this in my business, in my stizness? Yo, what's up though? And I laugh because I never caught the lingo. I never had that cool vernacular. So when I would try to emulate and pretend, I remember a specific time. I'm in middle school. And because my cousins were talking this way last weekend when I saw them, I go up to a girl and I'm like, yo, what's up? What's up, shorty? And something. And the girl just looks at me and goes, Mike, why are you talking like that? And I'm like, what? And she's like, why are you talking like that? That's not you. Don't talk like that. And I'm like, what? Yeah, I'm being me. Completely broke my face because I wasn't being, go back to the theme, I wasn't being authentic. I was not being authentic. And authenticity requires you to be comfortable being uncomfortable. It requires you to be comfortable in your own skin. It requires you to share things that sometimes may make you feel a little bit uneasy, but knowing that that's your truth. And knowing that it doesn't matter what other people's perspective of it is. That's your truth. When we think of the work we do in this space, we're working with people who have gone through all kinds of experiences, and we respect and honor them in their experience. We don't say, or I hope you don't, you shouldn't be in the space if you do, oh, look at them, are they so jacked up? And if you are looking at it just from that perspective, that you're missing opportunities, because many of the people that we support in this work we do are really enriching experiences, enriching interactions. Tiffany, Amit, can you relate? Can you espouse about this ideal of authenticity and being comfortable in your own skin, or as it relates to your organization?
I think most people are still awkward. I think that the number of people who are not the cool kids are more than the people who are the cool kids. And
Right.
I think as you grow into yourself and you come into your own as an adult, you realize there is no such thing. Like, you are just who you are.
Right.
And I think like that resonates with a lot of people when they can see someone who makes them validate who they are, makes them feel better about themselves, because that person is being true to themselves, which is why I think people love social media. But the gag about social media is a lot of times people project that stuff and it's not true. So it's almost like a dynamic, the cool kid dynamic in a different way.
That's
But
hold on. I got to
say
put
that-
a cheat code on that one, because that's no, really, because people are professing and putting on the aesthetics, and it's not always true. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Tiff.
No, you're fine. And so, but I do think that that's what people are craving. They're craving like being heard and being seen and being validated for who they are. And people use that for good, and some people use that for evil.
Right.
I'm just going to leave that one right there. But I just think that that's what people crave. They just want to know and want to feel validated. And a lot of times they see that in other people who share their experiences, who will share their stories.
And what you just said there, so you just hit on another thing, validation. We are living in a time where, and you guys, I don't have my regular contacts on, so if I say something, I'm misspelling something in the chat, don't hold it against me, because I probably can't see the letters too good. And I got literally 4 screens going on in front of me. But to your point, Tiffany, about validation, and I think we have to be very careful with that validation, because validation is a dangerous thing, when you're seeking it, or you're measuring your personal value on what other people say is good or bad. And social media is honestly the cesspool of unhealthy validation, in the sense that it's all based on these likes and shares. And if a person doesn't like something, we've all talked about it, we've all been here before, it doesn't have value because I didn't get enough likes or not enough people commented. And let me give you an example here. So I'm broadcasting on multiple channels, the show. So I'm bringing in the audio feed into our live stream. Give you a little technical background here. Now, what I wanted to do, and we haven't figured it out yet, is how to bring people from the live stream into the Clubhouse. And I know it's ways, but I haven't figured it out yet. My point being to you, though, is that I see 0 people watching on the icon on the actual Restream, is the app that I use. But when I go over to LinkedIn or Facebook and some of the directs, I can see more people either engaging or actually being in attendance. Now, today we had lower numbers than usual in the room on Clubhouse. We can't not do this because, only 3 people are here. Or I'm not going to not do this because only 3 people are here. Because people are meeting us on different platforms. They're listening to the replay. They may come in for 2 minutes because they're driving or they're at work and they can't listen to the full time. But that doesn't invalidate that the work and the conversation and the content that we're producing is still high value. And I work with, and funny enough, 3 of the clients that I mentioned that are new clients for me this week, thank goodness, because I'm an entrepreneur in small business, are social media management clients. I look at social media management a little different than a stereotype. It's not for me just posting for you. I can Canva and post, or Photoshop and post, really easy. But what you get when you work with me is I'm a brand strategist. I'm a professional photographer, a professional designer. So what I realize, and I don't know if you guys can relate to this, is that this stage in my life, I have multiple roads that are intersecting. And those experiences make me a pretty dope dude in my space. I'm not to sound arrogant, but it really does give me a really unique perspective. So no, I don't take pictures of every client I work with. I don't design everybody's stuff I work with, but I can tell you I can navigate it brilliantly because I have an empathy, a real hands-on empathy for it. And I mentioned that to say that you got to keep on trucking. Even if people don't immediately clap, even if people don't always comment, you got to keep on trucking because your tribe, your audience is there. But sometimes consistency matters. Well, always consistency matters, but sometimes it's holding on, it's staying consistent, it's staying on that track is what will get you over the finish line. Amit, Tiffany, can you relate to that? Are there examples in your own professional or personal lives that show that to be the fact or not?
Yeah, I think and I think honestly, to keep it real. I think that's one problem I have is the consistency part of it. You know what I mean? Is just because I think we're all born in all different directions. You know what I mean? And I think your point is really good, Mike. And the consistency and doing it when it's hard to do it, right? That's when it's right. When that's difficult, and to do things when you don't see results immediately, right?
Right.
You send out, in my case, I remember I found some postcards. I'm doing that still, and I've gotten some good leads from that. But it took time, right? You know what I mean? And so I got to go on the faith that I am reaching people, and you know what I mean. And it'll just take a little time to do it, and it's hard, and especially if you're a non-for-profit person, you're like, I got to pay the bills, right? I got to
right.
I got to pay for these things, right? And so to take things just on faith is hard. But any business that you build, because the not-for-profits are a business, right? It requires a certain degree of that thinking. I think. You know what I mean? So no, I agree with you. I think the consistency is extremely important. Taking things on faith and realizing that there's multiple platforms, multiple venues, multiple whatever, where people are going to hear what you have to say, and it is getting through. It's just sometimes it's not as fast at the pace as I want, right, or whatever. But that means I got to work even harder, right? Or I got to go out there and send out another 50 posts, whatever I'm going to do, whatever I'm doing, to get to where I need to go. It's not easy, but I definitely think. I think the other part is being prepared too. I think as not-for-profits, being prepared financially, strategy, all that stuff. I think it's important, particularly in times when things are tight. I think, you know what I mean, and I think that's important. And it goes back to what Tiffany always talks about, and you and Gerald. Having a good board, right, and thinking some of those things through, along with the consistency and all this stuff, I think is really important to make it through some really difficult times, and then be there, and most importantly, be there for the good times when things do, when the seeds you're planting do sprout, right, or they do produce something. I think
and
easier said than done, but I do believe
I think your point is spot on me. And ironically, when we think about, I always laugh and say, you guys laugh at me when I talk about the queen of consistency, because I've learned so much from Tiff. And this is not just accolades to pat her on the back. I'm telling you that I'm not the smartest person in the room, right? And I never want to be the smartest person in the room because I can't learn that way. So when you look at our panel, or you look at any panel I'm going to bring, it's always going to be people who I think have more resources or more perspective on something than I may have. So when I use Amit and Tiffany, specifically Gerald as well, and Lisa brings in different perspectives for me in the same capacity, Tiffany is probably the most consistent person that I've met in a long time. I mean, I put dates on it, but in a long time. And sometimes I'm like, yo, Tiff at it again, Tiff at it again, Tiff at it again. That consistency, it's not always easy. It's not always comfortable. Sometimes it's not always fun. But why does it matter, Tiff? And where does it come from? And what are the results you see from it? And I'm not to sound like you're giving your own commercial, but I'm saying I think it's an important thing. So what works for you? People want to know how to do that for themselves.
Yeah, well, I thank you for saying that. And I laugh every time because on this side, it doesn't feel consistent at all.
Well,
and
let me
it
tell you
feels
from the
like
outside, it looked real consistent.
It feels like constant procrastination. It feels like wasting time on Facebook and Instagram. But I appreciate you saying that. But I do really agree with what Amit said. Like, it's hard to do it when there's not that instant gratification or people don't respond right away. It's really difficult to keep going. It's really difficult to go live and nobody's on your live. Or consistently, it's like 3 people who show up, right? And so I don't really have an easy answer, but I will say this. I get energized because I know that what the things that I'm saying is helping somebody. And it may help somebody 3 years from now, especially on YouTube, because I recorded a video in 2020 and people are still commenting on that video about how it helped them.
Wow.
So I try to take comfort in the fact that it's not necessarily who shows up right then and there. It's just that you're in the position to say something to help somebody. So are you going to do that? Or are you going to let your fear, or are you going to let your inconsistency get in the way? So it's more so about somebody needs to hear, somebody needs you more than anything else. And that helps, but I'm going to be honest, it's hard when you're sending out stuff and you want people to respond and they don't. But I will say that if you continue and you keep going, they will see you. And it may not be in the timing that you want, but I believe in God's divine timing. So I believe it's going to happen when it needs to happen, but you need to do your part. You need to show up.
And I think you said a great point. So let me first say, you got to show up. I appreciate that. And I really consider that to be a cheat code for us, that you have to show up. You have to show up even when you don't know exactly what the results are going to be. You have to show up even sometimes when the metrics don't always look perfect. I think it's really important, Tiff, and I appreciate you saying that. I appreciate you sharing that, that we be consistent with this work, really, really with this work. One, as you hear my Mike isms, as I'll call them, one thing I like to mention is that it's not always about you, right? And in this space, that is probably one of the most important things to know. It's not always about you. So when we talk about servant leaders, and I consider us all here to be servant leaders, you first have to know how to serve before you can lead. You got to have empathy for the population that you're working with. And there's no better way than to kind of get in the trenches when you can sometimes. As Amit mentioned, just to circle around a little bit, that he likes to meet his clients. So when he goes to different parts of the country, he tries to break bread or share some time with them. And I also feel the same way. Look, so Amit, let me tie this back again. I like to do that too. So that's why I want to meet the boss on the budget. I want to be able to look that boss on the budget in the eye and thank her personally for inpouring and sharing. And I've said this before. Let me say this. Amit and Tiffany are busy people. All right. We're all busy people, right? Really busy people.
Yeah, we're all busy. Yeah,
really busy. So the fact, and I'm not saying it as a joke, I'm saying literally, the fact that I got Amit and Tiffany to come here on Saturday morning, almost every Saturday morning for an hour or two, you guys just don't, I mean, I don't think you may get that it's not just being pat on the back. It's not just for accolades, because we're not getting them, right? If we're not getting them from each other, we may not get them in this space. And some of you are gracious. Let me say that. I apologize, because I've gotten really great feedback. But my point being is, when I first met Tiffany, man, there's nowhere in the world Tiffany was going to commit to coming to no place every Saturday morning. So the fact that Amit, Tiffany, Gerald show up every week and they pour really unselfishly, right? And I laugh when I say it, and I have people obviously give great response, but these are professionals in their field. Most of us have 20 to 25 years in our respective fields. That's a lot of professional insight that we're given for free, right? If you literally, sometimes I've talked to some of us about this. Sometimes I'm like, wow, I'm probably not gonna get no clients because I done gave it all away on cheat codes. But we do it because we believe in this, and we do it because we are really about helping other people. But the ideal when we talk about consistency is remembering your why. You're not doing it for you. You're not getting rich typically working with a 501c3. I'm not saying it's impossible, but the 501c3 alone is typically not how people are getting rich. And because of that, now I'm not saying that doesn't play into your success model or part of your move towards what you want in those gains, but it's not typically, we're not doing this work because we want to get rich. We're doing it because we care. We're doing it because we really want to make an impact and leave a legacy of leaving things better than we found them. And I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I think it's really vitally important. I know it makes me a better person. And when I do the right thing, Gerald tells me this a lot about his experiences, and I can vouch for the same. Whenever I give, I'm always bestowed on like threefold, right? And I truly believe this is a space where we're giving, and I don't want to get all my hyperbole. You see my voice get deep when I start getting serious, y'all. But I really want to tell you that we appreciate.
I hear the clap.
You can hear it. You hear the resonance. I really mean that. It's not all about you. It's not all about you, and that may sound off-putting for some people, maybe even offensive, but it's not all about you. And I think when we move in that way, that it makes what we do more authentic. It makes what we do more pure. It makes what we do have more resonance with people. And I think it's really important, right? Regardless if you're a nonprofit or for-profit. Even when I didn't do any nonprofit work directly, I always treat my clients like they're my only client, because I know that for me, I'm not a corporation. I am a corporation, but I'm not a conglomerate. When you give to this organization or you give to my business or support my business, that money goes into the bank, and besides taxes and some other things, it's a direct connect. You're paying a bill. And I don't want to sound too tacky, but you're paying a bill. So for that reason, I have the most empathy and respect and appreciation for the people who support my vision. And thereby, I feel like I got to pay it forward, and I want to support some missions too. And I say this now, and I'll switch up a little bit, you guys. I just want to do this. I feel like this is a weekly when I even think about this. So I had a client last week, who was a part. I've done a couple free cohorts over the last 2 years that were directly connected to the community here on Clubhouse. And hi, Tracy. Tracy was a part of one of them that I did. I think last year we did storytelling, nonprofit storytelling. And one of the clients that was in one of my cohorts for the last 2 years reached out to me about a week ago, and a little bit more a week ago. And she was saying that she had a project that she needs some help on. And she was wondering what she thought of me first. And she wanted to reach out and see if I could support her, help her efforts. And she said I was the first person that came to mind. And the project was a pretty significant project. The investment was pretty significant. And we talked through it, and it was something that I definitely could bring added value to and help her bring to fruition. And she told me, she said, you know, Mr. Shaw, I always wanted to work with you, but I wasn't in a position. I didn't have the resources to work with you at the time, but I knew I wanted to work with you because I really believe in what you do, and I appreciate the work you do. And I listen to you often, and sometimes I don't say anything, but I always really appreciate what you do, and I can hear the authenticity, and I can hear the real desire to help people in your voice. And she said you were the first person that came to mind. So we were able to solidify the contract, and we were able to give some real clear metrics on how I'm going to bring this thing to fruition on my side for her. And that's an example of what Tiffany spoke of a moment ago or a little while ago about planting seeds, right? So that was a seed that was planted over 2 years ago, right? And I didn't do it because I was trying to get a return on investment that way immediately. But because of the good work and the investment in trying to help people, she remembered that, and then she came back to invest in me in a real significant way, I'll say. So I just want to throw that out there. Tiff, Meek, can you relate to the same idea? I know you've already, because you've shared some of these examples. Have you had those same examples of people who met you around the way or heard you speak or got a good reference for you, and they didn't have the ability or the resources, but then they came back and said, I remember you?
I don't know if I can think offhand of something like that, but I'm pretty sure that that has happened. But I did have one situation where I have coaching, but I was limited because I have limited time. So, you know, somehow this woman who I never spoke with at all, didn't know anything about her nonprofit, signed up for coaching with me. Like, she immediately signed a deposit. She set up an appointment, and it wasn't like I did an intake or anything. She just signed up. So I'm looking and I'm like, who is this? I don't even know. I'm looking at my records, like, has she downloaded anything? Like, have I talked to her? And she had downloaded some stuff, but I had never had a conversation with her. And so when I finally get on a first assessment call, she's like, I just have to tell you, thank you, because you've helped me start my nonprofit. And if it wasn't for you, there are some things I just wouldn't have realized. And she's a big deal. She doesn't realize she's a big deal yet, but she really is a big deal. And she's like, I've been watching you on YouTube for at least a year, And I just decided, you know what? I'm going to get the help I need. I'm going to reach out to Tiffany. And in the sales world, to have a customer who, you don't have any like direct contact with them, they just immediately buy.
Right.
That trust came from consistently showing up on YouTube, consistently emailing my list, having resources that are helpful for people. And then once they realize that I am a good source, then they trust me and then they're ready to go. So that was like an amazing example for me because I really was racking my brain. Like, I've never spoken with her and she just signed up for coaching off the rip. Like, so that was an amazing experience.
So what does that tie back to, Tiff? And I appreciate that. And thank you for sharing that literally. But that also ties back to, and I know sometimes I think, you guys will laugh at me when I say this probably, but sometimes I think I'm like, Tiffany gonna get mad. She's gonna say, Mike trying to copy me. But when I'm telling you, when I see stars, I get my telescope out. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm not saying you steal people's ideals or something, or you plagiarize somebody. But I'm saying when you see great efforts and great examples, as we're talking about consistency, I'm telling you that our team here is ambiguous as we are sometimes, meaning that we're not formally, there's no contracts here for us to be here. We're here because we want to help. And because I reached out to some folks and said, hey, I'm doing this thing. Would you guys take this ride with me, basically? And I mention it because as I've watched Amit and Gerald and Tiffany, and I say Tiffany specifically in the space of her consistent output of her content and whatnot, I look and say, like, my little sister, and I call Tiff my big little sis, because I'm like, yo, damn, she killing this thing. She's killing the game. So I've modeled some things because when I see excellence, I want to be the best version of Mike Shaw. I might make lots of mistakes and drop the ball, and I might be finally fine-tuning that thing over time. But I tell you, I want to be the best version. So I learned this from Tiff. I'm giving credit right now. So something I started doing, and I promised myself, just like I'm here every single Saturday with cheat codes, my Monday night I launched last week, my Monday night lives. Monday night lives are going to be where I'm doing live stream sessions, just an hour, on whatever the topic is in the space for branding. So this week coming up, I'm actually doing, this is tied together, obviously not by mistake. I'm doing authentic brands, how to build authenticity in your brand. And I'm going to call it a masterclass, but it's not going to be high level content. Some really practical steps that you can take immediately and implement to really build your brand authenticity. And one of the most powerful ways, you've heard me say it a million times here, is using your story. And that's going to be on Monday night. And if you go to Nonprofit Cheat Codes, you'll actually see a link there that will take you right to it. If you scan the QR code, if you're in the internet, you will see it'll take you directly to Nonprofit Cheat Codes, and you'll see the link there. But the reason I'm mentioning it is because Tiffany talks about YouTube. She's been telling me about YouTube about 3 years almost now, about her presence on YouTube, growing YouTube, building YouTube, growing YouTube. And I'm going to be on multiple platforms, but to me, this is my real foray into building my YouTube community and leveraging that space for what it is. And that's a whole nother conversation to talk about why you want some YouTube action, why you want some presence on YouTube for your particular business, brand, or nonprofit. But I think you can't say enough about it. I just want to say thank you, Tiff. I appreciate that. And Amit, I mention you because look, it's our ongoing theme is, Mike, I don't do the social media that great, but I want to submit to you, it's never too late to start. And let me say this as well. Right. Just go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm right. I agree. I think that's right.
It's never too late to start. And Amit, literally speaking, another thing that sometimes just becomes necessary, and I'm not saying you're here or you got this immediate need, is you may just have to outsource it and get someone to come in on a very basic level to help you get it going. And I say that to you because as I have different clients I'm working with the social media management, I have people literally that want 2 posts a week, 2 to 3 posts a week. That's not a lot, right? But some people don't need a post every hour, all right? And they don't have a budget to do 12 posts a week, but they do want a presence and they just don't have the time or bandwidth to stay on top of it, creating the content, creating the videos. It is a job. That's why, as we talk about Tiffany being the queen of consistency, she's downplaying it a little bit. I don't know when Tiffany sleeps. I'm just going to keep it real, and I hope she will chime in and say it. But I don't know when she sleeps, because just this last 2 or 3 months of me really chiming up my content creation, I got my days of the week that I produce content for my channels, and then I got to chop it up and edit it, and then I got to schedule it, and then we release it. And then I have to watch the analytics of it and see what resonated, what got people's attention. And then I reevaluate and do it all over again. Tiffany, how's that work for you? Or me? I'm sorry, I'm jumping to both of you, but you don't have to know how to do it all, is I guess what I'm trying to allude to you and me. You don't have to. Yeah. There are resources to get it done for you, but you have to have a presence. That's not a question.
No, I think that's right, Mike. And I think the other rule that we need to all try to live by, and I'm learning this, is we're good at what we do, right? And hopefully, but there's a lot of other things that we're not good at, right? And it really is important to bring in people that you trust, obviously, and that you work with, that can really help you in those areas, right? And so for me, I like to think I'm pretty decent at the money side of things and the numbers part of it, but I'm very much lacking in this area and other areas, right?
Yeah.
And so I completely agree with you, and I think that makes a lot of sense. And I will say one thing about the content, which I'm really impressed with, and not the just when you think about Tiffany and the content, I guess this isn't like I'm not here to praise Tiffany unduly, I think, but I think one thing that has really impressed me with frankly everybody, but certainly with Tiffany stuff, because I think her stuff also it resonates a little bit with me, because there's a financial part of it as well, is the content is really, really good, right? You know what I mean? And right, and really some takeaways, and she's got a nice way of just sort of like giving enough, right, to kind of get you started, get you thinking. I like that,
Right.
And obviously, if you want more in depth or more knowledge of it, you obviously schedule time. So I like that. And same with you, Mike. You know what I mean? The content that's out there is really cool, and that is hard, right? I mean, as somebody who is working a little bit with some of this content now, writing stuff that is interesting. What's interesting to me may not be interesting to you or the general public, right? So I gotta divorce myself from that, and then creating things that are people can understand and whatever, I think is important. So the content part of it is really hard, and I have a new respect for people who are, making the content, right? You know what I mean? Because it's not a joke to do that, and then at the same time run your business and do everything else as well. And I can again bring it back to the not-for-profit community. There's a lot of people in the not-for-profits who are running things, doing things, and they've got to have a social media presence, right? You know what I mean? And thankfully, there's people like you and Tiffany who can help them with that, because I think doing all of that stuff is very difficult. There's no doubt, and doing it in a good way too. You know what I mean? So I agree with you, Mike. I think, and that's a very good point, and something that we all need to think about.
No, so with that being said, I mean, you make a great point, and just going into that just a little bit. So the content production is, so you got planning, you got production, and then you got the launching or releasing of it. And there's probably some other steps, but I'm simplifying it to 3. Everyone doesn't have time to do that. So I'm saying it to you for a person who does management for multiple and has done management for multiple organizations, big organizations, small organizations, educational organizations, health organizations, commerce or small business, and everyone has different needs. So the first thing I do is I assess what their objectives are. Always start at the end. For me, I always start at the end, and I re-engineer myself back, right? And then what is the goal? So I come up with strategy. So if I think of your objective, then I think, how do I get that? How do I make a roadmap to get there? All right. And then what makes the most sense? Some people are trying to directly sell something. Some people want to make sales, but they need to kind of build awareness of who they are first. Some people just want to define brand, and it will really resonate in all those other areas. So I mention it to say a lot of people don't have time to make cool videos or make good reels, right? It's probably not as complicated as it seems, but for some people, it's just like, you know what? I could do it. I just don't feel like it. I don't have the time. It's not my forte. And they'd rather have it outsourced. And that's why I'm using you as an example here, Amit, to say it needs to be an assessment first of what your objectives are. and then come up with a strategy to how to use social media to help you meet those objectives. Clubhouse, where we're at right now, this is social media. It's social media using a audio medium. So the main medium here is audio as opposed to visual. Now they have small interactions of video, or not video, visual, where you can put a link up top, but they keep it very specific to be audio. And then the little integration of us doing those reactions, that gives some visual, but it's still an audio platform. So I think assessment of what your objectives and needs are first, and then finding out what do you need to do, what can you do yourself, and then what you pay someone else to do. So for most of the clients I deal with, it's a partnership. So I may create content, I may create graphics, I may create video in some capacity. They have to engage with their audience. They have to respond to the replies. Could I do it? Yes, but that's a whole different level of investment. And a lot of people aren't willing to invest, because what you're asking me to do is literally like a part-time job or more if I got to engage with your clients. And a lot of people aren't willing to invest at that level. So I try to hand that off to the client, but I give them a roadmap of how to do it authentically, and to do it so that they're really getting some results. Tiffany, how do you do? Can you give us just like a little blueprint? Do you schedule certain days of the week? Do you create graphics? Are you outsourcing that to your team now? Are you there, Tiff? Are you there?
Oh, I'm sorry. We're getting started, so I still have you on here, but I was
sorry.
talking. I'm sorry.
No worries. If you got to get off, it's all good. I was just asking about how you schedule, how you put together your strategy. But if you're getting off, don't worry about it. I will talk a little bit about it if you're getting off.
Okay, yeah. Are you talking about my content strategy?
Yeah,
and then
content strategy. Yeah. Do you have a day of the week that you schedule? Do you outsource it to your team? How are you doing it right now?
Oh no, I have somebody schedule my Instagram stuff, and we have like a system where they repurpose things I've already done.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a long time to get to that though, but this is finally working for me.
Awesome.
Because a lot of if I'm doing different content on different platforms, I don't need to keep recreating the wheel.
Right. So same subject matter. You don't got to create brand new stuff all the time. You can repurpose it, or even curate other stuff in some spaces, which is another big thing in social media, where you curate it from different sources and you reshare it and you put commentary on it. But it's been successful. Have you seen growth in it?
So it's been early, but it's been working for me. Yes, and I have seen people responding and things like that. But I have, I'm on so many different platforms. So some stuff I do myself, some stuff I have other people do it. So it just depends. But to your point about the engagement, that's what matters the most. Like, it's important to show up consistently so you can be found. But the goal, the treasure is in the follow-up and the engagement.
Good stuff. Really, really good stuff. All right. Well, I appreciate that contribution there. And I mention you because obviously among us, you have way more. But say I do Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. And let me say this too. You don't have to do every platform. I know for some people that gets a little intimidating, because it's like, well, I ain't got time to be on all them platforms. You don't have to be on every platform. You have to find the platform that are the most important for your demographic and for your objectives. And that can be very different for different people. So with all that being said, if you're interested, I'll throw this out there too. If you're interested, I'm going to have one of these in my Monday nights. I'm definitely going to go into talking about social media strategy and how to get started from the ground up. If you just got a basic need, I'm not taking it high level at all. We're going to talk really ground floor. If you just have a social media, but you want to grow it and integrate some strategies to get some real specific objectives, I'm going to do that in a couple of weeks. And if you ever just want to have a conversation, reach out to me. Let's talk about it. Or I guess to any of us who are working in this space, because it's become something that people are managing very successfully for themselves. And there's so many different categories of it. And you really have to define what that looks like for you. Going back to the ideal of really more important than anything, being authentic. Your social media, whatever platforms you use, should really be authentic to who you are and who your organization is. It should speak in your voice. the images, the content, what you put out there should be well aligned with your organization's voice and mission. And there are all kinds of nuances like we talk about that we don't have to beat up in this particular session, but we will definitely talk about it more because it's not a space that any of us can afford not to have some presence on. Because if you don't, it's the equivalent of not having a phone number. It's the equivalent of not having a sign on your office so people know how to come. So when people come to your door, they know what door to go into. If people want to call you to buy some of your wares, they know what number to reach you. If people want to order something, they know where to put the order in at. And you're really setting yourself at a disadvantage if you have nothing or when they're not well aligned. You really have to have some presence on social media, or as I love to say, you're leaving money on the table. And unfortunately, in our space, in this nonprofit space specifically, if you're leaving the money on the table, you're disadvantaging people who need your support. And that could be food, that can be resources, that could be protection. What's the gambit of what nonprofits provide? If you're leaving money on the table, you're being less equipped to serve and support the people who need you. So going back to our theme, Amit, does it make sense, Amit? Does it resonate a little bit? I asked you for a person who says that you're really working on growing your nonprofit. I mean, not your nonprofit, your social media space. I'm sorry. I looked down and read something.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like my business is a not-for-profit sometimes, but I am not. I am not a 501c3, just to be clear. But
right.
Yeah, no, I think I've over the years, in full disclosure, and credit, to give a lot of credit to you and Tiffany and Gerald, because I think being in this room with you guys, I think about these things more. I oftentimes get so caught up in the daily grind, as we all do, and doing what we're doing, and not stepping back and looking at that. I was also very apprehensive about social media. I still sort of am. Maybe apprehensive is not the right word. Maybe cautious. I think for two reasons. One is my business has regulatory issues. You know what I mean?
Right.
I have to be careful how I go about it. That's one thing. But also, I just have some feelings about social media and certain things. But I am learning to get over that because, as you said, in the 21st century, in 2023, if you don't have that presence, you don't have a phone number, right? You don't have a way to people to contact you,
Right.
And if I really, truly want to, and I do, want to grow some business from outside of my referral base, right, and those sorts of things, this is one way to do it, right? And and so I have a newfound respect for what you said is exactly right. What I struggle with sometimes, I think, is, and this is my issue, is I need to devote time to doing it, right? And that's the thing. And even engaging someone like you or someone else or whoever doing something like this, I need to be like into it because I need to impart strategy, right? Or at least when I say impart, meaning work with somebody, right, to do the strategy, because I can't expect that somebody would know what my exact strategy is. I think that is a byproduct of a good dialogue. And so what you were saying is exactly right? I mean, you can strategize, think about some things, what works, what doesn't work, look at the metrics, all those really cool things that you were just talking about. But ultimately, for me, just speaking for myself, and I think a lot of other people some other people might feel this way as well, is I got to have the time to devote to do that. And I just haven't successfully done that. And that's my fault. But anything that's good or anything that I want to do as a priority, you got to put time in it, right? You got to be consistent.
Absolutely.
You got to do it, right? And so if I'm going to commit to doing it, I got to do it. So that's where I struggle with it. But the concept, it makes a ton of sense, Mike. And I think a lot of people really would benefit from hearing what you just said. And maybe they'll hear more of that on Monday nights. Because I think that's really what it's all about. I think, really what it's all about, all those things coming together. You can put together something together. I'm sure you've done that for people and people want to wear. That's fine. But if you're going to really devote time and resources to it, doing it a proper way, in a strategic way, makes a lot of sense. So that makes a lot of sense, Mike. And I just need to work on my schedule. That's part of it. And anyways,
just to add to that, Amit, that's a great point. And I think there are many people that would echo what you said, that they still need to kind of have, like, what do I need? I don't know what I need. I know I need it, but I don't know exactly how I need it, right? And then depending on your industry, it has to be some specific nuances to how you move because of regulatory, because of laws. You got to be very specific, but you got to be very careful that you're not breaking the laws, and with nonprofits, we have to be mindful. It's some privacy things that we got to be careful of. We can't expose people certain ways. We talk about that a lot, that you got to be able to tell people stories in an empowering, not an exploitative way. And we've talked about multiple people in this space who are able to do it. I think Jamila is here today, and she uses her social media very authentically. That's empowering, especially working with kids. You got to be careful working with kids and exposure and, protecting yourself from liability. But I want to say this as we kind of wind down with this, and that ideal is that even when we're doing this work, even when we're talking about using social media in this way to build authenticity, I think it's also important that if you do work with an outside person, or if you do it yourself, that like for me, I'll speak for myself. I go through an interview. So when I do discovery, I go through an interview, and I have some really specific and unique questions that I ask. So I truly get an assessment of who you are and what your voice of your organization is, or your individual, because it might be an individual brand. It may not be a full organization, or yourself, your personal brand might be in a business, literally. And we really have to, as I say, I always like to start at the end and reverse engineer backwards, knowing what are your goals. So some people say, I need to make 3,000 sales in the second quarter. Okay, so what does that look like? How do you sell? What do you sell? Where do you sell? And then working our way back to really say, we can say computers. Okay, let's use that as a really simple analogy. So you say, I need computers to do my business. And the person said, well, I'm not good at computers. I'm not technical. I don't know that stuff. So you say, well, what do you do? So yeah, well, I'm a CPA. All right. Well, what type of software do you need? Okay, well, I need QuickBooks. I need, and I don't even know all of them. I just mentioned. So you got to have, how fast does the processor need to be? How much capacity for storage do you need to have on your computer? How fast is your internet or Bluetooth connections? So you assess what is needed to do the work you need to do. And then we say, okay, now the people that you meet, where are they at? Where do they roam at? Right. And then we work our way back. And then, and I'm saying it to you, anyone who would be offering those services, part of that service should be an assessment to understand how to understand what your needs are. Because you may not know, because this is not your forte. You may know, listen, I need to get more people. I need to get more in front of more people. I need to let people know I do this. A lot of people don't know I offer this particular service. And then once those assessments and discoveries are made, then a strategy should be submitted to you to say, this is what I suggest to you. Now, you may look back and say, yeah, yeah, that works or that doesn't work. But in any event, I just mentioned it to say it's a process, but I think it's a process that's necessary. And I think it's a process that can be tremendously impactful. And when I tell you there's some amazing success stories, you see these people with 200,000 followers, you see these people who made $2,050 sales, and you kind of laugh and say, it's really happening. From skinny tea to waist trainers to digital downloads, there are people very unassuming, people that you would never assume that they are doing this type of sales and this type of return, that are doing real important business on social media. So with that being said, let's get ready to wind it down. I hope you guys got some good information today. I hope we were able to share and give things that were fruitful for you. Any final thoughts to me before we wind it out for today?
No, man, there's so many cool things that everybody said. All of us, I think, in the room. Not to pat ourselves on the back, but I think a lot of cool stuff. I come back to the authenticity. Yeah, no doubt. And I think the authenticity. We're in a world where there's too much that's curated, right? Too much that looks perfect. Too much is this. And I just think that the real, right? Being real and trying to be authentic. I think there's a premium for that. I think, you know what I mean? People really appreciate that. So I mean, I took many things away today, but that's the one that kind of resonated the most with me. And I just think that, you can't lose with that. I think there was a time when you could lose by being a little too real, but now you really can't. You can't lose. And I think that just makes you much more, sort of like, people at the same level, people looking at things. So anyways, I just want to say, listen, think about that. And more importantly, have a great summer weekend. There's only a few more weekends left to go. Although
Right.
I always remind myself that September's nice too. So even though
Right.
Labor Day shows up, it's
Right.
still good. But the mindset is one. Listen, have a great summer weekend. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy some fun things, and we'll catch you next week.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we are still in some summer, and let's not let it go till it's gone, right? Thank you guys for being here. A quick reflection, and I like to always close with a little quote. So when we think about this digital age, right, of filters and filters and false images sometimes, and really facades of what people are looking at and what they're presenting. You don't know if it's real or Memorex, if you remember that. Authenticity is really the rarest and most valuable currency. Authenticity is really what separates you and differentiates you from the crowd. Many people can be the same as you, but no one can do it exactly the way you do it. So when we think about the landscape of social media, where so many images and video and sound is really doctored, stories that really stick with people and that really reflect and really touch people emotionally are the ones that are genuine and they're real. And sometimes they're not perfect. And I think sometimes when we think about the space of social media or any of this work when it comes to nonprofits, is that we have to be perfect. Perfection is a rarity, and you shouldn't strive for perfection. You should strive to be authentic and to really show that you're dedicated and focused on changing lives and making this world a better place. So I submit to you guys, be authentic, be a little vulnerable, and be yourself no matter what anyone else thinks. At the end of the day, that's really the only thing that's going to stand out, and that's the only thing you can really keep up is being who you are. I appreciate you guys being here today. I hope to see you guys next week. For all the folks on our live stream, thank you for being here. Join us again next Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern for Nonprofit Cheat Codes. Until then, we'll see you next time. Appreciate you.
Enjoy your weekend. I'll see you next week.
This has been a Pep Talk Club production in conjunction with MSI Communications. Opinions expressed are of individual contributors. All rights are reserved. 2021. Rebroadcast of any portion is strictly prohibited.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.